we won't talk about government failure. So, like I said earlier, there's a market. Government, why is government even part of economy? Government is part of economy to correct the mistakes or the misdeeds of the market system. So there's the market system which involves the demand and supply. That means we have the suppliers, the consumers, ensuring that consumers are able to buy what they are supposed to buy, ensuring that they are paying the price for that product. The price they are paying is justifiable. That means there's quality that is part of the product and consumers are happy buying that product. So government is interfering when the market forces or the economic agents are unable to provide goods and services that makes consumers to be happy. When there's a misallocation of resources from the market forces or the economic agents. Misallocation does not only imply that the goods are not available or are not enough. When the goods are provided and they are excess, it is also misallocation of resources. Why do we say excess of goods produced is misallocation? It is misallocation because those resources used in producing that excess might be used in producing other products or might be used in producing some goods instead of using it to become a waste. That is what we mean by misallocation. So misallocation can be excess or shortage. I think that is clear. So when there is misallocation of resources from the economic agents, government will intervene. So in the course of intervention through government intervention does not improve the situation. So when government intervention, we say we need government to intervene. Why do we want government to intervene? To improve the situation, right? So if government intervention does not improve the situation, then there's a government failure. So if the market has failed, the government might as well fail. The market has failed because the market has misallocated resources. Government intervene to ensure that allocation is done judiciously, that there is no more misallocation. But in the course of government intervention, in the course of government intervening into that economy or into that failure, government worsens the situation. So if the situation now becomes worse, then there's a government failure. So what is government failure? Government failure occurs when the intervention of government towards market failure leads to an excess social cost than social benefit, then there's government failure. So that's why I wrote, government failure exists when the social cost of intervention by the government exceeds the social benefit. We already know that the social cost is external cost plus private cost. And the social benefit is external benefit plus private benefits. So when there is a negative externality, when the negative externality is more by the government as a cause of government intervening into that situation, then there is a government failure. So the market has failed, now the government is failing. So government will fail if the intervention by government does not improve the situation. I think it's clear. So what are the reasons that would make government to fail? One, distortion of price signal. What is price? Price is the amount you pay on goods and services. Price is a signal for the market forces. So price, what is price? Price tells us, gives customers motivation to buy. Price is an incentive for producers to produce. So price is a signal to the market. So if price is a signal to the market, and government, in the course of intervening into the society or in the course of its own intervention, has distort price signal, then there's a market failure. If firms, because of how government has placed price, they are unwilling to produce goods or services, then there's a market failure or government failure. If, because of price signal, consumers become irrational, then there is a government failure. So, the price at which goods are supposed to be sold, if it's supposed to be decided by the price mechanism, but now government is taking charge of that price system, or pricing policy, or pricing strategy, and as a result of that, firms are unable to understand how to produce, what to produce, for whom to produce to, then there's a government failure. So government has come up with their own intervention through their policy, and as a result of that, consumers and producers don't understand the price signal anymore. Then there's a government failure. Let me cite an example. Government might feel if there is inflation, and as a result of that, increase the income level of consumers or income level of workers. So if the income level increases and there's inflation, government is doing that to ensure that workers are able to buy those goods and services. But what is government trying to do? Government is creating a signal of distortion, because at that point in time, firms will still produce less. Household will have enough of money to buy, but it does not solve the problem of inflation. It will worsen inflation. There's an increase in price of products, and as a result of that, government feel the only way out is to increase the income level of the society. So as a result of that, government increases the wages of workers. Now the wages of workers has increased. If the wages of workers increases, what happens? The aggregate demand will increase, because the spending power of workers will rise. But there's inflation already. Prices are higher. So if prices are higher, income level is high, how does that solve the problem of scarcity? It might be as a result of lack of products that has made the prices to rise. Now that the prices are rising because of lack of the products, now a lot of people still want the products because they have a lot of money to buy. So this has given what? A distortion to the price signal. Another example of distortion to price signal is this. Government giving subsidy to firms that are not efficient. This firm is not efficient, but government is giving subsidy to that firm. So the firm would not still be efficient, because naturally the firm is not efficient, and you are still giving them money to do what? To still provide the services that they are unable to provide. So it's a bad signal. So the situation there is not solved, because government is just worsening the situation. Government continues to empower those that they are not supposed to empower. This is what we call distortion to price signal. You increase the income level and there's inflation. Inflation will continue to rise because the spending power of people has increased. But the inflation was as a result of demand pull inflation. A lot of consumers want the product. That is why the product is not available. That is why the firms increase the price of the product. So there's demand pull inflation and there's an increase in income level. Two opposite things. So this is what we call distortion to price. I think you understand distortion to price here. So I'm going to write about them after explaining everything. The second one, unintended consequences. Sometimes government will want to intervene. In the course of intervention, they don't foresee the consequence. They thought it's going to be positive consequence, but it comes out to be negative. So, but they have to take decision. They have to take a bold step at that point in time. And in the course of taking that step, the result becomes negative. That is what we mean by unintended consequence. So it was not what they are hoping for, but it happens. Do you understand what unintended consequence is here? So government is taking a decision to intervene in the market due to market failure, but the result was not what was expected. Is it clear? The third one, information gap. The market, when there is asymmetric information, most of the time, government will work with certain statistics from their ministries. But the ministry are not giving the right information to their bosses. So as a result of this, government might provide goods or services that are not needed. Do you understand what information gap is here? So government is getting information that is not enough to intervene in the market. But government is using the information available. So most of the time, government might not even have information against the issue, which is market failure. So government doesn't have a full knowledge of the causes of market failure. So when you don't have the full knowledge of that cause or the problem, when you don't have the full knowledge of the problem, how can you solve the problem? So that's where there is an information gap. So because government doesn't have detailed information about the issue on ground, then it won't be able to solve it the way it's supposed to solve it. And that means government has also failed on that side. So government failed because the information available to government is not enough to solve the problem of market failure. The fifth one, conflicting objectives. When we talk about conflicting objectives, government will take decisions. In the course of taking decision, whatever decision government takes, there is an opportunity cost. So government might reduce spending on education because they want to spend on defense. And those that have interest in the education will feel government has failed on that side of education. Do you understand? So there's always a conflicting objective because there's for every decision made by government, there's what an opportunity cost. Is it clear? Politicians maximizing their own warfare. There's one thing in the back of everybody's mind. They believe politicians want to ensure that the welfare of the community or the welfare of the society is maximized. But the truth of the matter is, whatever decisions politicians want to take or whatever they fight for is for their own benefits. Do you understand? So because whatever they are fighting for is for their own benefit, that means is a private benefit, not social benefit. And when the social benefit is less than the private benefit, there's externality, a negative externality. Is it clear? So I'm going to write about them one at a time. Distortion of price signal. Reasons for government failure. Yeah, for discussion of price signal, I said government sometimes take decisions that will not give a proper signal to the market, which as a result, firms or consumers may behave irrationally because of making their own decisions. So here, government will take decisions, and when they take that decision about price, firms will not understand what's next to do, and as a result of that, they behave irrationally. Consumers may not know what to do. As a result of that, they can also behave irrationally. So they behave irrationally because government has given a poor or a bad signal in terms of the price. And when we talk about the price, we're talking about the income level, subsidies, and the income level and subsidy especially. Government might raise income level, and because of raising the income level to solve a problem of inflation, which is a market failure, and government doesn't know that at that point in time, the cost of that market failure or the cost of that inflation is a demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation means there is excess demand. And when there is excess demand, prices will rise. And it's an inflation. Excess demand now, you are increasing the income level of customers or income level of workers. That means the spending of power of workers continue to rise for the product that is not available. That's a bad signal. That's a distortion of price. Firms might be given a lot of subsidy and they are not effective. Lack of effectiveness, they are not efficient. Their inefficiency is not because they don't have money, but because they lack maybe skills and technical know-how, or they lack expertise that will take them to that level of efficiency, not money. So government is solving a problem that is not there. So that's a government failure. We go to unintended consequence too. Unintended consequence. So unintended consequence here, I said government intervention which might lead to what? Unexpected report or result. That's what we mean by unintended consequence. I think it's clear. The third one, excessive administrative costs. I didn't explain that before. Excessive administrative. Government wants to control market failure. Government wants to solve market failure. And because of doing this, they have to engage different ministries to do this. And these ministries that they are engaging, it started becoming an excess spending for them. They start spending, which makes them not to be able to spend on other important issues in society. That is an administrative cost. So, in the course of you inviting people, government try to engage people. And because of engaging people, they start spending so much on those things to solve the problem of market failure. That is an administrative cost. So, as a result of that, government might spend taxpayers' money, which are intended to be used for certain things on solving market failure. So that is what we mean by excessive administrative cost. There will be cost, but when the cost now exceeds the limit, they start spending what they are not supposed to spend to solve the market failure, then there is a government failure. I think it's clear. When government starts spending out of their budget, spending out of taxpayers' money, which are meant for something else to correct market failure, then there is what? Excessive administrative cost. I think it's clear. So, this implies spending taxpayers' money on what they are meant for to solve the market failure. That is what we mean by excessive administrative cost. Then we go to information gap. 4. So, information gap. Government might lack detailed information about the causes of the market failure, which makes solving the problem becomes complicated. So government might think they have detailed information about what has caused the market failure, whereas they don't have it. And as a result of this, they won't be able to solve the problem. And not solving the problem is a market failure, because the government has intervened because it wants to solve the problem. Then conflicting objectives. Conflicting objective. Every decision made by government has an opportunity cost. So, if government is taking decisions regarding financing education, it might do that at the detriment of health. It might do that at the detriment of providing or improving infrastructure in the society. So every decision government takes has an opportunity cost. That's conflicting objectives. I think it's clear. We have politicians maximizing their own benefits. Politicians maximize their own welfare. Politicians may only engage to solve market failure if it is beneficial to them. This means the private benefit exceeds the social benefit, leading to externalities. So you wouldn't see politicians discuss about some pressing issues because it does not affect them directly. So, but if it affects them and they are going to enjoy it, that it's more beneficial to them, then you see them engaging in such discussion. So at that point in time, the private benefits to solve that problem exceeds the social benefits. So that is externality. So if all these things, and who are the politicians? They are the ones in government. So if all these occurs, or if all these occur, then there is government failure. But we have to take note that government failure will start because there is a market failure. And when there is market failure, misallocation of resources, government would want to intervene. And in the course of intervening by government, if they are unable, or if government is unable to solve the market failure, then government has also failed. Then that's what we call government failure. I think it's clear.